What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Toma Todito Show. And what a fight we have on our hands this coming May the 8th, this weekend. The weigh-in just took place between Saul Canelo Alvarez. This is the second fight of 2021 for Saul Canelo Alvarez, and he's going to be facing none other than BJ Saunders, Billy Joe Saunders, who everybody deems to be the toughest foe at super middleweight for Canelo Alvarez. He is stepping in the ring after some drama ensued earlier this week. Of course, it has to happen, right? For fights of this magnitude, there's bound to be some type of disagreement, some type of drama, and it all adds to the buildup of the fight. So Canelo Alvarez is going to be stepping into the ring, bringing the WBA and WBC super middleweight titles, and he is the Ring Magazine champ as well in the 168 division to Billy Joe Saunders' WBO title. So he's going to be stepping in. He's got an amazing record, Saul Canelo Alvarez, as we know. He's got 55 wins, one defeat. His sole defeat came at the hands years ago against none other than Money Mayweather, Floyd Mayweather. He's got 2 draws and 37 knockouts by the time he steps into this ring. Of course, WBA, WBC, and the Ring Magazine champ at 168. Billy Joe Saunders brings a perfect record into the ring at 30-0. His last fight happened this past December against a diminished version, a faded version of Martin Murray, who challenged multiple times for a title in the middleweight division and in the super middleweight division and was unsuccessful each time out. Fought Gennady Golovkin, lost to Sergio Martinez when he challenged out in Argentina years back for that middleweight title. Came up short against Billy Joe Saunders. As a matter of fact, he ends up retiring after that fight, a few days after his fight with Billy Joe Saunders. His career was not going anywhere. That was the final straw, his final attempt at a major world title. Billy Joe Saunders brings 14 knockouts to his 30 wins, a perfect record. Billy Joe Saunders is very awkward, right? Very awkward style, southpaw, quick hands, not a lot of pop. He has good enough pop to be able to send his opponents back, and his movement also helps him mitigate the fights and the damage that he endures, because he's constantly rounding and going about the ring. Never a still target, never a stationary target for his opponents. And that's going to be the key in this fight. Definitely in the early rounds. We'll see how Canelo adapts to that. Canelo, as we've seen him in the last few fights, his biggest foe to date was, his biggest opposition to date was going to be Callum Smith this past December, and he passed that test with flying colors. Taller, longer reach, stronger than him, a blood and guts type fighter in Callum Smith, and he failed to make the fight and take the fight into muddy waters versus Canelo. Canelo ends up dominating him. He figured him out. He stayed on the inside, ends up damaging his bicep, Callum Smith's bicep, and eliminates his reach. He turned Callum Smith's advantages into disadvantages for him, because Canelo stayed inside. The shorter fighter stayed inside, wore that body out, and Callum wasn't able to utilize his reach or his height, for that matter. Masterful work that Canelo did. Of course, his last fight against Avni Yildirim this past February in what was a mess of a fight, right? Because it brings back the critics. That was the mandatory for the WBC. It brings back the critics into saying that Canelo cherry picks his opponents and what have you, right? The critics are always there for Canelo. They never seem to give him his due. As far as the same old critics that come out, Billy Joe Saunders, people have been calling for Canelo to fight Billy Joe Saunders for the last couple years. This fight was supposed to happen a while back, and then of course Billy Joe Saunders got into some trouble. That fight ended up falling through. Then we hit the pandemic and everything else, So this fight has been called for the last while now. If Canelo makes easy work of Billy Joe Saunders, those critics are going to be right at ringside, ready to go, ready to turn their cameras on and start criticizing Canelo, that he cherry-picked another fighter, that this, that. Listen, this is the best at 168 right now. Billy Joe Saunders, hands down, to me, in my opinion, is the absolute best opposition that Canelo Alvarez could face at the moment. Then we got the other champ, Caleb Plant. And then we have David Benavidez in the challenger, former champ as well, who's also undefeated, by the way. He lost the title at the scales. And due to trouble outside of the ring, he never lost it in the ring. So that's another tough opponent that Canelo will soon face. The Charlo looking to move up from 160 to 168 to face Canelo. Everybody's calling out for Canelo. Everybody wants that big payday. But in reality right now, Callum Smith was the man with the Ring Magazine title this past December, and Canelo passed that test with flying colors. Everybody was scared of the reach, the height, the disadvantage, blah, 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 and Canelo just passed that test. Now, he dominated Callum Smith. He faces a weak opponent in Avni Yildirim. Not sure why the WBC held his spot, his number one spot as a contender, the mandatory, for so long, since 2019. But that fight's done and over with now. Now we get back to real business. BJ Saunders is, to me, the best opponent. I think BJ Saunders would actually best Callum Smith. He would outbox him. I think BJ Saunders would beat Caleb Plant. I think that's a very even fight to me. They both have similar pop in their punch, and they both are fast hands. I think Billy Joe Saunders is a little trickier than Caleb Plant. Caleb Plant more of a boxer. Billy Joe Saunders is more of a mover. Very tricky. Very hard to figure out. I think Billy Joe Saunders would beat Caleb Plant. I think he would have an interesting fight with David Benavidez, but I think he's definitely the best opposition that Canelo could face at the moment. After this, if he makes easy work, like I said, critics are going to be out there going at Canelo, but he's clearing out the division. Billy Joe Saunders is bringing the WBO title. Canelo bringing the WBA, WBC, 3 of those titles. One of these guys is going to walk away with 3 titles that out of the 4 belt era, 3 of the 4 major sanctioning body titles, and then the Ring Magazine title is also there. So the 4 belt era always includes that extra Ring Magazine champion, which usually delineates who's the man at that division. Canelo has those 3 right now, 2 of the 4 major sanctioning body titles. BJ Saunders has the 3rd. Caleb Plant has the remaining title. And this is going to be an awesome fight. I think in the first few rounds, maybe the first 4 to 6 rounds is where, maybe up to the 4th round, we'll see the fight being somewhat tight. By the 5th and 6th round, I think it's going to start opening up a little bit. Eddie Reynoso came out saying that the plan that they have worked out is to knock out Billy Joe Saunders between the 8th and 10th rounds. So either the 8th, 9th, or 10th is what they're shooting for to get Billy Joe out of the ring in knockout fashion. Billy Joe Saunders, like Tyson Fury has been saying all week, people are going to be amazed that Billy Joe Saunders may very well put on a boxing clinic and give Canelo a boxing lesson. We'll see. That's the trickiness of Billy Joe Saunders. He doesn't have much pop, at least stopping power. Yes, he does have 14 knockouts, but he doesn't have stopping power like Canelo does. 14 knockouts versus 37 knockouts is a big difference. Canelo his power has transitioned with him as he's moved up in weight divisions. Billy Joe Saunders has always been in these heavier weight divisions, either at middleweight or super middleweight. So it's going to be interesting. I think Billy Joe Saunders is going to be a trickier foe than Canelo has faced in the past. Maybe a Erislandy Lara type opponent until he starts figuring him out. It may very well go all the way like that. Maybe like a Miguel Cotto type fight. But Billy Joe Saunders doesn't have the boxing that Miguel Cotto had. He could probably give him trouble like Erislandy Lara, and that's probably the fight that they focused on as formulating a game plan against Canelo. Nonetheless, listen, this is not the same Canelo that fought Erislandy Lara at 154 in the 154 division. So it's going to be really interesting. If the knockout happens, again, critics will be out, but he's cleaning out the division. You can't deny it. He's cleaning out the division slowly. He's en route to securing and succeeding in the goal that he has set out for himself and becoming the undisputed belt holder and champion in the 168 division. It's going to be awesome. One thing that is also part of this card. Oh, let's talk about the drama, right? Before I jump over to one of the fights that has my eye in the undercard and the supporting card of this pay-per-view. let's talk about the drama and the issues that took place. Canelo apparently was shooting for an 18-foot ring, as reported. He was willing to meet halfway and agree to a 20-foot ring. Billy Joe Saunders walks into the ring earlier in the week. He was not happy with the ring size. He starts asking for a 24-foot ring. Of course, the bigger the ring, the more it would benefit Billy Joe Saunders because there's more room to move. And that's his style. The shorter the ring, well, harder for you to stay away from Canelo. That's where the argument was coming out. Billy Joe Saunders asked for a 24-foot ring, threatening to pull out of the fight during fight week. Missed some of the press earlier in the week because of that ring situation. He was willing to meet at 22 foot and versus the 20 foot that Canelo was giving into. Eddie Hearn ends up pitching a 21-foot ring, but I believe, as of my understanding, leading up to this weigh-in, they will be stepping into a 22-foot by 22-foot sized ring. By the time that we hit prime time tomorrow and the fighters are walking into the ring, it should be a 22 by 22 ring at Arlington Arena. This is going to take place, of course, at the famous Dallas Cowboys Stadium in Arlington, Texas. It's going to be, they had originally announced it for 60,000 in attendance. It looks like it's close to 70,000 as what was reported earlier today. The weigh-in happened. Both fighters got in each other's face. Billy Joe Saunders had some words for him. Canelo nods his head, telling him basically not going to happen. You're not going to be able to pull this one out. Both fighters make weight. Some of the additional drama because of that ring earlier in the week, the ring size dispute, was that they were flying in John Ryder, a fighter who BJ Saunders defeated earlier in his career. Actually gave John Ryder his first defeat of his career earlier in both of their careers. John Ryder is a rough and tumble type fighter. He also lost to Callum Smith. It looks like John Ryder is going to be in attendance to promote his fight that's coming up June 26th against up-and-coming prospect, contender, and has a version, someone who holds a version of the WBA title in the interim version of it, in David Morrell. Of Cuban descent, David Morrell Jr., Osvaldo Morrell. He's 4-0. That's the PBC's version of Lomachenko. At least they're trying to build him as a PBC's version of Lomachenko. We last saw him against Mike Gravansky, and he made work of him. So it looks like they're going to be facing each other, John Ryder and David Morrell Jr., June 26th. I believe it's going to be out of Minnesota from the reports that I saw thus far. So Osvaldo Morrell, that's the PBC's new Lomachenko, right? They're shooting from. He's 4-0 and has a WBA version of the title already, the 168 WBA interim championship. John Ryder's going to be challenging for that. That's a good test. Great step up in competition for Morrell. Very quick step up in his young career as a professional. Good prospect, good amateur record as well. So that's the who's who in that division. Those guys are right there coming up for future opposition for Billy Joe Saunders. Callum Smith doesn't have anything scheduled. David Benavidez, we last saw March 13th against Ronald Ellis, Ronald Ellis was a former sparring partner for Canelo Alvarez. That was an entertaining fight. David Benavidez stops Ronald Ellis in the 11th round. He has a fight scheduled against former champion and Jose Uzcategui. That's coming up in August, late August. And Edgar Berlanga, he's still undefeated. He's 17-0, but his knockout streak came to a halt a couple weeks back against Damon Nicholson, heavy-handed Nicholson. He dropped him multiple times, was unable to stop him. He actually dropped him in the first round, but Nicholson, the veteran that he is, got up, went all the way. They actually went to the full 8 rounds, and Berlanga came out. He almost knocked him out, actually, prior to the fight coming to a halt and the final bell ringing. But Nicholson, the veteran that he is, he got up and ends up losing a decision instead of a knockout stoppage. So Berlanga's streak comes to an end as of a couple weeks ago. David Morrell is going to be defending his WBA version of the title against John Ryder. David Benavidez already going to be back in action in training camp here pretty soon. to face former champ Jose Uzcategui, who had those awesome fights against Caleb Plant, Ray, and Caleb Plant, now the IBF champ. So he'll be watching. 168-pound division is really hot right now. A lot of hype in that division, and all because the attention, of course, the target is Canelo Alvarez, and here he goes again. His second fight of 2021. He wants to fight 4 times this year. We'll see. Most likely the next fight's going to happen in September, and then possibly December to close out the year would be the 4th fight. Let's see. Canelo's team shooting for the knockout to happen between the 8th and 10th round. The Saunders team looking to put on a boxing clinic. We'll see what we get. One thing is for sure. One of these 2 men is going to walk away with 3 of the 4 major sanctioning body titles after tomorrow night, and will be the Ring Magazine champ at the 168 division. So whether it's Canelo or whether it's BJ Saunders, we're about a little bit over 24 hours away, but they both made weight. The fight is on. There's no fill-in or stand-in fighter that's gonna be stepping in there for Billy Joe. I can't wait. I'm glad to be back, glad to be recording, glad to be talking to you all, and welcome back to the Toma Todito show. And again, we're gonna bring this back in big form, and have plenty of episodes coming your way here in the next few days. Take care of yourselves. Have a good night.